What's up, y'all? And welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I'm your host, Robert, and today I'm going to talk a little bit more about Magus of the Library, volumes 1 through 5. Now, I've already done a combo video, kind of like speaking in general terms of both Magus of the Library as well as A Sentence of a Bookworm anime, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth with Magus of the Library. And honestly, I already had recorded like an hour long thing on this, but just wasn't really feeling it. So I'm like, you know what? I want to give this a second shot and just kind of sleep on it, which I did. It is currently like 5 something in the morning that I'm kind of revisiting this and just wanted to talk because, with Magus of the Library, which first of all was written by Mitsu Uzumi. And like I said, it's currently 5 volumes out now, with volume 6 due later this year in December 2022. But yeah, sometimes we come across either people or even things in media to where we read, watch, play a game, whatever, that is kind of what we need to experience or to have in our life during that moment. And that is what happened with me and Magus of the Library, because the story of the main character, Theo Fumis, who is this young boy, at least when the story starts off, he's a young boy who is of mixed blood, and he just wants to read books. He just wants to imagine all these adventures. But sometimes we are in situations in our life, whether it be something of our own doing, or just sometimes, like in Theo's case, sometimes you were just born into situations that are out of your control. And there are times where we come across certain people in our lives that are just there for just a brief moment, or just, like a gust of wind passing through. And, some people are there forever in our lives, and then some people or things happen that are just there to kind of like push you forward. And that's kind of where this journey begins. And so I'm going to say up front real quick, I am going to be talking, this video is going to be talking spoilers for all 5 volumes of Magus of the Library. But like I said, I'm going to try to keep this more condensed than the 1 hour thing that I already recorded. But yeah, so like I said, Theo, he grows up in this very small, out in the boonies town called Amun, and they have a library. But because Theo, like I said, he's born of mixed blood, because we find out that, he is born of 2 races, one that pretty much wiped out the other. And so he is the child of this big conflict. And so, of course, he looks different than everybody else, from the color of his hair to his pointy ears, all this stuff. And we also find out later on that he has like this really big excess of mana. But because of, how he looks and how he's all that stuff, whatever, originally he is treated poorly, and he's not even allowed in the library to read books. And this is in a town where not many people can really even read and appreciate books. And so you have this young boy who just wants to read all these grand adventures, but the head guy of the library, he's like, no, if people see you around here, it's gonna basically like scare them away from coming to read and stuff. But anywho, as things go on, one thing that I truly appreciated about how this thing starts off, and like I said, kind of like really hit me, because I'm kind of currently going through some stuff in life, And, even though, yes, I am a 32-year-old, husband and father of 5, you know, there's been choices I've made across my life that have kind of put me in certain situations that I'm in now. And with Magus at the Library and me reading it now, there's kind of this moment where, Theo, he kind of has some moments throughout to where he is trying his best. And a panel that really sticks with me is one of like the panels in volume 1 where he is just crying because he's just like, I'm trying my best, to live a good, honest life. But, he just keeps on just running into all these bad situations. And, the Kafna that he that come through town to visit, and when he first meets Sedona, and kind of he feels like, man, is this finally the person, my hero, who is going to help me and bring me out of this? But they kind of work together and overcome some situations that happen in town. But Sedona gives Theo this book and takes him on a magic carpet ride, literally, and kind of just shows him like, hey, yes, look at this world. There are so many more things out there in this world waiting for you. And Theo kind of has this moment towards the end of the volume where he's crying and he's asking Sedona like when is my hero gonna come and save me? When do I get that moment? And Sedona basically tells him like, hey, that's not gonna happen. There will be no hero. And he said, because we all live and experience things that sometimes only we can understand. There's certain things that we see that nobody else can understand because they can't see what we see. And so he basically encourages Theo just to be like, hey, sometimes we have to take fate into our own hands and be the hero of our own story. And so he just encourages Theo like, hey, be your own hero, take charge of your own life. And, he kind of does the, I talked about in the other video, the kind of Shanks and Luffy moment where, Shanks gives Luffy the straw hat and he's like, hey, return this hat to me when you become a great pirate. Well, Sedona gives, Theo this book and he's like, hey, someday come find me and return this book to me, once you've, become, on this great journey or whatever. And that is how this adventure begins, seeing Theo. I loved and was happily surprised, by how at the end of volume 1, we have a freaking 7-year time skip. And now Theo is 13. And we see that over the years, he has been pouring his heart and soul into preparing to go on this journey to become a Kafna, so that, he can go and see the Central Library, and just so that he can, see and explore more of the world. And I love the reoccurring theme that happens throughout the series, and the reoccurring saying that happens, which is basically, to protect the text is to protect the world itself. And yeah, and just seeing this journey that Theo goes on. And it is why, like I said, I had heard ahead of time, that there's a lot going on in these volumes. There's a lot to read, but in a good sense, because, series don't always do really good about, world building and character backgrounds and just information and stuff. And Magus of the Library gives this to you in abundance, because all the various races that we meet across this series, we get a chance to get detailed information on their history, their background. We even learn sometimes like history between different races and stuff. Like, hey, like this one had this other one enslaved, but then they found their own freedom. and so on and so forth. And all these historical landmarks and stuff, because I love how we constantly kind of get these moments where we see these kind of like ancient drawings and stuff, as the narrator is kind of like detailing this great war that happened in the past, that almost that so many of the texts and books and history of the world got lost in this great war, and that is what led to the establishment of the central library, and thus the Kafna system, with the 12 different departments, that basically make up and kind of help oversee the central library and how books are handled across the world and stuff. And so, yeah, just along the way, just seeing all these various characters that Theo meets, and just seeing how everybody kind of has their reasons for going on their journeys and taking this exam to try to become a Kafna. Some of them do it because they feel like, hey, everybody else in my family basically went down this path, and so I am too. And then some characters are like, hey, this is the only way I will get to forge my own path and to make my own life decisions. Especially a lot of the women in the series, because in this series, it is that super old mentality of, hey, women, when you get older, you're gonna have a family, and you're just basically just gonna be there taking care of your kids and the house and stuff, whatever. Well, becoming a Kafna is kind of like one job that women can try to pursue to try to get their own freedom, so to speak. And I just love the whole host of, like I said, different people that we meet along the way. I love how they kind of have all these various departments, from the group that kind of handles, the fixing and repair of the books, the group that catalogs everything, that makes sure the books are in the proper orders on the shelves, to people that are basically kind of like security, and so on and so forth. I just love the way that the series is just so detailed in those facts. And yeah, like I said, I am just very interested just to see how things go along the way. I truly loved and appreciated seeing all of the 3 stages of the exam, and just how grueling and taxing this stuff was. And this series, or the exams and stuff, was definitely one that shows that, hey, you need to have some very strong mental fortitude to make it through these exams and stuff, because man, that it is a lot of information they have to know and maintain, and just so many things they have to knowing how to properly care and to repair the books and everything in between. And I really just love just like all the different characters that meet along the way. I love the little cat girl who, she seems very immature, but she is also very perceptive, and how, her ability to kind of like notice when somebody is watching and observing kind of helps out along the way of the series, to where she, that ability comes in very clutch during the exams and stuff. And just how, just seeing the various ways that the Central Library tests people, from, the written portion to, the interview, to the kind of practical part of the exam, and just seeing, these characters having to be physically and mentally fit to be able to take on this job, because it's like, hey, you're here to help protect the text. And so, yeah, that stuff was very dope. I really loved and appreciated like I said, just seeing all the various locations and information on the world and everything of that nature, and seeing the moment where first, Theo meets the old lady who ends up being the kind of like head person of the central library, and all of that stuff was just like very dope because cause I just love whenever like a very important character kind of is just in disguise and just plain Jane clothes, and then you find out later on like, oh, this random person that we met or saw is actually super important in this world. And so yeah, that was just very dope to see, this old lady up to her shenanigans, and how she just really just wants to freaking just be able to just kind of just not be this high and mighty person. She just wants to go and be amongst the people and stuff like that or whatever. And just the little adventure that her and Theo has, to them talking and discussing things, to them fighting that rogue spirit. And I am just like super eager to find out more information, like, okay, who was that masked person that was behind it, and things of that nature. And yeah, and I love how her and Sedona had kind of talked, and that's how she kind of got interested in Theo, because Sedona had basically told her like, hey, somebody's gonna come along at some point, a boy with pointy ears, and basically he's gonna change the game. And so yeah, just seeing when she first kind of was cloaked in the background during the interview portion, and she did something to basically like make Theo just like flood tears and stuff, whatever. And then, like I said, their encounter in town, fighting the spirit together, and then finding out like, oh no, this is the lady that is in charge of everything, and she played a very crucial role in this great war of the past. And so I love how this is just like we're seeing the kind of like the tides change, and basically a new era beginning, because she is basically kind of like the only person still in a position of power that was involved in this great war back in the day. And how a lot of like the younger generation that are taking these various seats of the I think it was called like the 12 sages of the library. And I'm always a fan whenever we get like dope panels introducing a bunch of like, basically I equate them to kind of like the 12 captains in Bleach. And just like, okay, we kind of get to see these people, we know that these people are important, and so we've only gotten a chance to kind of like interact with like a few of them. And so it just kind of it's always just exciting just knowing like, okay, there's more of these important figures that we're going to have to encounter and deal with at various points as we go on throughout the series. But yeah, and just learning that like, hey, now Sedona has become, in the 7 years since he last saw Theo, Sedona has become, one of these key figures here. And so that is just super dope to see. And of course, I always appreciate a good but stern mentor and teacher, and that is what we get with the lady who is basically in charge of teaching this generation of students. How they call her the what was her nickname, the trimmer that treads lightly. And so just like seeing like the moment where she was like, good morning class, and she kept on saying like, I can't hear you, and then eventually she's like, I can't hear you. And it's like a freaking like a spiritual pressure slash white beard quake level. It's like what if Whitebeard was a librarian and stuff. So but just like her presence when she's like, hey, people they underestimate her because, oh, she's an older lady, she looks so innocent. But it's like, hey, when she demands attention, she's gonna get your freaking attention. But yeah, but yeah, just overall, and I like how the series has a variety of characters of all shades and backgrounds and stuff, and characters of various ages, to where we have some attendees of this class that some of like the group, like the core of them are like around like 17 to 20 or so, and then we have like some people that are like early 20s that have tried the exam a few times, and then finally are just now getting in on their third or fourth try. And then we even have one who is and then we even have one who she's in her 30s and she's a mother. And then we have somebody who's a prodigy who's only like 11. So yeah, I just appreciate that there's a variety and age range, with all the characters, both the people that are kind of going through this year of training, as well as with the various Kafna and people in power. How some of them are parents, they have their own families and stuff, whatever, and come from all walks of life. And it was just like very dope for just seeing Theo go on this journey, but also like along the way, he worked so hard in those 7 years while he was training, to where he went from being this poor kid that nobody wanted to talk or interact with, to now he's kind of like the shining jewel of the town, and how everybody is like rooting for him to succeed. But once he started this journey out into the larger world, he's having to deal with those discriminations and prejudices again. And a lot of times, or like a recurring thing in the series, is just like people eventually find out like, hey, sometimes we just need to talk, to figure out what's going on with the problem or issue. Because a lot of times, especially when there's like so many different races of people, a lot of times, and people from different backgrounds and stuff, it's like you can't assume that, oh, this person is here or got here easily or whatever. It's like, no, like we all went through a lot uh, on our journeys to try to take this exam and to be, you know, a Kaufman and stuff. And so a lot of times it just kind of comes down to the right situations coming up and the characters talking and interacting with each other. Like, okay, hey, we just, had a misunderstanding, or I didn't really, I couldn't really see everything that you had gone through. And okay, this is why you are the way you are now, because of some stuff that happened in your past and stuff like that. Because one person is Aya, the girl who's kind of like top of the class, and how she seems like so, proper and perfect. But it's because when she was younger, she had a dream of becoming a scholar and stuff like that. Like, hey, she wants to research the stars and all this stuff, but then like being told like, no, women can't be scholars, and then just like having her dream crushed at a young age, and that kind of setting her on this path of determination of being like, no, I will forge my own path. I will do, what I want to do. I want to take full control of my life. But then you also have other characters who, shoot, I can't remember her name, but the one girl who basically was going off with the teacher, and basically, thinking that the teacher was insulting her house, but the teacher being like, nah, I ain't got a problem with your family. My problem is you. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Yeah, Medina. Yeah, her name was Medina, the student. But she just has such deep rooted, like, basically racism in her blood and stuff, to where just that moment where she just like, Theo's trying to help her, and she's like, don't touch me, you filthy, mixed blood, or whatever she called him. But yeah, but overall, like I said, this has just been just such a amazing read for me, and I cannot wait for volume 6 to drop later this year. Like I said, this series truly came into my life at just the right moment, because like I said, I'm kind of, was going through some things or whatever, and this just kind of just gave me a bit of encouragement and just kind of reignited some things and some passions within me to being like, hey Rob, like, you know, you can't sit around and you can't wait for somebody to come help bail you out of a situation. You know, you got to take grasp of your life, and it might be tough, it might be hard, but you can do it. You know, if you put, you know, your heart and your soul and your mind to it, then you can achieve anything. And that is why, like I said, that is why I just wanted to kind of have, you know, take a little bit of a moment, just speak separately on Magus of the Library. But like I said, if somehow you listen to all of this and you still haven't read the series, I didn't go into like super detail on every aspect like I did in that 1 hour video where I went volume by volume. But I hope that, you know, that this at least like gave you a good idea of, you know, of what this series is and what to expect. And like I said, I highly encourage you to go out and pick it up. You know, if nothing else, hey, at least just go find volume 1 and check it out. Like I said, it was published by Kodansha Comics, and yeah, like I said, it's currently 5 volumes out. So go check it out, go give it a read. And if you are a fan of the series, then hey, let me know. You know, comment down below if you're watching the video, or hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, wherever. You know, I'm at Dad Needs to Talk on all platforms. So hit me up and let's talk. And let's, you know, spread the greatness of, you know, Magus of the Library, and just how, just overall, it is just so good. Because just like the art of the series, just like the world building, the background, everything, it is just so freaking good. And yeah, and that's the girl Aya that I really enjoy her character, and just been seeing her grow and just seeing her, you know, open up and everything. And that is what I love about Theo. You know, it's like, hey, he is there to help out and to connect with people and stuff. And you know, and I'm very curious about this girl, the one we just met in volume 5, who is like the kind of like mysterious 27th examinee and stuff, whatever. So, but and also I want to know, like, what is up, what is Sedona's true intentions, because the book that he lent Theo, it is one that, you know, Theo told him when they made each other again, like, hey, this book can be very dangerous in the wrong hands because of the ideals and stuff that is in there. And then that kind of moment where they kind of, you know, go their separate ways again, and how, you know, Sedona tells him, like, hey, you keep the book, because I'm pretty sure you'll find a good use for it later on. And how the narrator is basically saying, like, you know, basically saying in that moment, like, okay, hey, the two met again and are now departing. And how they said, the narrator was like, you know, one of them destined to save the world, and one destined to destroy. And so that is where I'm kind of like, even though I haven't read all of Magi and the Labyrinth of Magic, I do know enough about Sinbad, and that is why, like I said, I kind of get Sinbad vibes a little bit from Sedona as well, because he's very charismatic and things like that, but he also seems to have an air of like, okay, there's something darker going on here. Same thing with what's his name? Whoops, dropped my book. Sorry about that. And same way I kind of feel about you know, this dude Q-Free from Witch Hat Atelier, which another great series with beautiful art. I highly recommend, if you are somebody who has read Magus of the Library but hasn't read Witch Hat Atelier, read it. It's another fantastic read, just like Magus of the Library was. But yeah, I just love, you know, those characters are kind of like mysterious, a little bit dark. It's like, okay, hey, there's more going on with you than what you're letting on. And yeah, I just love it. But enough of me just rambling on. I'm gonna kind of wrap this up here, but yeah, like I said, just go check out Magus to the Library. It is truly a fantastic read, and I can say I feel like, if, like I said, if you're a fan of world building and character development and all that stuff, whatever, then you can't go wrong with this series. But I'm gonna wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about this series. Whether you are a fan of it already or maybe I've piqued your interest, especially since I have talked about it twice in two different things. But with that being said, like I always say, treat yourself to something nice, read some manga, watch some anime, play some video games, and live your best life like Sedona Theo. Become your own hero and write your own story. Be the author of your own story, become your own hero, and forge your own path. And with that, I'm done. Y'all be easy. Thanks for listening and or watching. Peace.